1, 2. Can you can you can you see me? There you go. There we go. All right. Great. All right. That looks like it. Good. Hey. Good morning.
We're all set up, we're tuned, and we're first of all, thank you so much for doing this. We're very grateful.
Sure.
So we've talked a little bit about the piece. I sent you the recording of our run through last week, and we performed the piece on Friday night at our concert, and it went really well. So that's kind of where we're at with things, and I'll kind of let you take over and start us off.
Okay. Well, there you go. What would you like to know about this piece?
Well, we talked a little bit about in what's written in the program notes about how it was commissioned and the history of it, but if you have any other thoughts maybe you wanted to share initially about the piece?
Well, it's a piece that is very deep for me. I like it a whole lot. Now let me say, since I'm now looking at you guys and didn't talk to you directly, that what I heard in your rehearsal recording was outstanding. There's always stuff to make better, but what you guys have accomplished is to make music, which is the whole deal. And so often music gets stuck on technique, and that has not stopped you. You have gone straight through the technical aspect of it and have produced the piece of music. You've produced the thing. And I think your conductor knows very well the whole idea of letting music speak through you, rather than you trying to do something with the music. And what you have accomplished is that you let the music speak through you. So, music for me is exactly that. Music has to speak through me. When I start composing the piece, I literally have no agenda, no plan. I think that is odd, that I do not have a plan to start a piece. But I understand that if I do have a plan, that I have already stopped in some essential way what the music wants to be. So it's kind of a dangerous feeling to go into something with no idea, except the faith that it's going to work. And that's a really interesting and really hard thought, probably the critical thought for anybody doing any kind of creative work. So let me ask you, I can't see too many people the way the video is set up, but how many of you there do some kind of creative work? Are there any composers? Anybody who's trying to write music? Is there any yeses? Tell me, James.
Yeah, there's about 4 hands up there.
4 hands. And other people who do other kinds of creative work, either performance in theater or writing of any sort or artwork of any sort. How many of you are doing something like that? So, how many have we got there?
A lot of hands now.
Quite a lot of hands. Okay. So, you are already feeling that thing inside you which says that there's something that needs to be done, something that needs to be expressed. When I was your age, I began to try to compose. I guess I was last year in high school. I didn't have any training or any theory, and wasn't very successful. But when I got into theory study as a college freshman, I started very seriously trying to write. I didn't have any capacity, any technique, and that is, I had the idea to do it, but not the technique. And that took all the years of training to get that technique, to be able to do it. So, if you are finding yourself having this push inside that you want to do something, you keep honoring that push. So I would say that immediately I honor that push in you. Whether you're any good at it or not is another thing. But something in you will be good at it. Something will say, hey, here's an idea that I'm really interested in. And then you try it the best you can. Write music. Yes, it's a lone job. And the whole purpose of it is to bring music into the community. And you guys sitting there are the music community for travel at this point. And that's the function of the composer, to be the channel for this kind of energy and to find out how to do it. So this piece came about from a long association with one of my conductor friends. His name is Ray Linton Walter, and he was director of bands at the University of Texas at Arlington for many years. And Ray and I became friends in the late 1980s, and so we're looking at a long time ago. Nearly 30 years ago that he first contacted me. And I'll tell you the story a little bit about it so you know the background of what you're doing here. He called me. I was living in New York City, and I received a phone call from a person I did not know. And he told me who he was and that he appreciated my music. He had performed A Child's Garden of Dreams. And I thought that if he had an opportunity to commission a piece of music, that I would be the one he would ask. And he said that, but the circumstances were now very sad. His wife, who had passed away from brain cancer in her late 40s, so she was a very young person to die. And his band had raised some money for a commission for a piece in her memory, and he had asked me now if I would accept that commission to do that. That's a very odd thing if you can think about it, that someone calls you out of the blue and asks you to do something which is so intimate to the family. And well, I agree. So they took a deep breath and said, yes, I'll do this. And I had asked him then if he would, because I never knew his wife, if he would send me some things of hers so that I could become familiar. I have a feeling for the energy of things that people touch, and so I can find the energy of people by touching things that they have touched. And he sent me a packet of things, including some newspaper stories, some sheet music, and then there was, she was a church organist, and in the package was her hymn book, which she had used as a church organist for many years. And it had the darkened palm sweat on the binder in a book where a person holds a book that way. And I remember that I was standing in my music room in my apartment in New York, and I was opening this package and holding this book in my hand, and my wife came to the door of the room, took one look at the book and at me, and took a step back, and she said that only, well, it still moves me quite a lot. She said simply, he loved her. And during the course of well, she's extremely sensitive to these things, and during the course of the time that book was in the house, she would not touch it. She said, that's for David. So I had to spend her energy through primarily this book, which she was a very energetic and in fact a very pushy kind of person, which I had to discover. And out of it arose a piece of music which is entitled In Memoriam, and I think the conductor might be able to find that for you. You can find it yourselves, it's on my website, so you can see the score for the music just by punching it up, so go ahead and do that if you want. And so this piece was performed for the first time in 1990 in Texas, and that has not had many performances since. It's a piece that people like a lot. So I went on, this became immediately a friendship with Ray, deeper than a friendship, more like being a brother. And we had many performance opportunities over the years, and then in 2003, he retired. And I was asked by former students of his if I would write a piece for his retirement concert. And so, again, I had to go look at my friend in this deep way to see what I could see about him. And what I found was a whole series of scenes. I'll simply say it out. I have my inner experience of the movement of my own life, from life to life to life, and I can see in my friend the same kind of movement that each life is an accumulation of experience and essentially, I want to say that each life is the experience of the resolution of suffering. And it's a very hard thought. I just want to give it to you and let you take it and think about it on your own. Each life, the purpose of each life is the transformation of suffering in yourself primarily, and then in the lives of others that are around you. So each of you is asked to become a full human being and then to find a way to be useful in the world, in the transformation of suffering. You can see suffering all around you. You know what it is. You can see it in yourself. You can see it in your family. You can understand what I'm talking about. So I could see this movement in my friend Ray, and that his retirement was not the end of his life. It was simply a transition point. And at the end of his life, when that comes, is not the end of his, it is a translation point. And so this is the background for this piece, Child. Okay, now this all arose, this arose as thinking, really as the piece began to form, and after the piece had formed. I have to follow with it. I'm not trying to illustrate these ideas in music. I'm simply trying how to find the energy of a piece of music, to find it completely, and to let it tell me what it wants to do. And the result is this particular piece of music at this time. So I have said a lot of things here, and I wonder if you have either questions or responses.
Does anyone have a question right now? I think they're being a little shy, but
well, yeah, invariably, people that way, I would say. But so, has anything arisen in your talks about the piece or about what's going on that you recall?
I'm trying to think of something specifically. It's nothing specific is popping up, but I know that my observation, my experience with the piece has been, we played earlier in the semester a transcription of the finale of the Shostakovich Fifth Symphony, and great piece of music. We ended up getting there, but it was harder. It was taking a longer time, and when we started started work on Traveler, it just felt like the process, I don't know if you guys agree, it felt like the process was more immediate, and the music seemed to speak to them more directly, or at least more quickly. And they seem, I think they're being shy right now, but they seem to take to the music in a way that is really direct and powerful, and that's the general experience I think we've had with the piece.
So, from what I heard on your recording, that's the case, and you guys just allowed yourselves to go for it. That's terrific. Do you have a thought about how we should proceed here?
Yeah, I was wondering if maybe we had any specific thoughts on what we're doing with the piece. I know I mentioned in the email that a couple of tempi were a little bit slow. I don't know if you had thoughts on tempi or on any other specific stuff that you heard.
Okay. In my recollection of what you did, your fundamental sense of the energy and the tempo of the piece is exceptionally good. In this, I trust you as a conductor. You have the capacity to look at a page and to see what's on it and actually try to do that. And that's not always the case. But what you have done in terms of your energy, in terms of your tempo work is excellent. Looking ahead now in the piece past when we get to tempo change, and that is at measure 66, the accelerator and there's a movement forward at measure 67. This was very well done, and you arrived at a new tempo quite nicely. My memory is that after not too long a time, it kind of settles back into itself. Yeah. So that you back away from the full body of that tempo. One of the issues of the music at this point is that it is aggressive and forced. It is fortissimo, and everyone is playing as hard as they can to produce that kind of sound. And one of the things that happens under those circumstances is that things slow down. I think that that this section can be practiced, for instance, by singing the parts, and this takes a lot of stress out of actual playing, and lets you stay exactly in time. So you might try that as a way of letting this section continue to have its full value. Okay, coming out of this, as a transition into 113, perfectly good. I like this a lot. Your aggressive quality of 113 is extremely good. Just a reminder there that the people with the 16th notes are still marked at fortissimo, so that doesn't go down. There's a tendency to want to let that disappear, but it doesn't. Other people, the sustained notes are disappearing, but not the 16th notes, and that just continues.
So that might be my fault.
Yeah.
At 113, I had specifically told them to try and relax that, but you think it should maintain the aggressive quality there?
Yeah, you take a look at it, and the indication is still, there's no other indication except fortissimo for those folks, plus accents. Right. If you could look at that, so bassoon, clarinet 3, clarinet 1 and 2 each have accents on those 16th. So it doesn't go away, right? And measure 115, it says simile, which means just that's what it is. And then you have the aggressive forte plus accent and 117 sustained tones in front of it. And so there is an urgency about it as opposed to a relaxed quality. Yeah.
The top voice
and then,
in the clarinet was tending to pop out, and so I was trying to get it to not, you know how it's written so the
yeah, I know.
Okay. Is that okay if it pops out? Should I not worry about that so much, or?
So there it is, it's B flat clarinet, it's like replaced. This is at 117, right? Yeah.
Well, actually, at 113, the first clarinet.
113.
The way it's split up.
Okay. Oh, that, yeah, right, that, okay. Well, there it is. It is going to pop, it's fortissimo with an accent, almost not pop,
Well, there you go.
Is that okay? Yeah. Well, now, having said that, when you get into how you make that sound, there's going to be good sound, there's going to be bad sound. So the person playing that part has to be able to make a fortissimo that sounds good, as opposed to not sounding good, right? And that's the work.
Is the idea that...
But you must...
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Skype delay.
Go ahead.
Is the idea at 113 that the line is continuous between first and second clarinet? So it's do yo 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 as opposed to do yo 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 yo.
Well, you've got, each of them has accents.
Right.
Now, the bottom tones don't come out as hard, as sharply as the upper tone. So it's very simple. But the attempt is there. Okay? So what I want to ask you is that rather than try to back away from it or to modify it in some way, to go through it with continue that quality, that attitude. You want the attitude always. And that your playing begins to find out how to make that attitude, as opposed to, well, we sound bad doing this, so we're going to change it. Yeah. Do you understand the difference? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm asking you to grab hold of the idea of the pressure which is being expressed by the moment, and to find a way to play that well. That's the work. Now, the interesting thing is that once players have a real idea of what wants to happen in the passage, then their playing begins to rise to meet that need. Right. So trust that. Now, are you still working on the piece, or are you finished essentially?
Yeah, no, we're gonna record it next week, so we're still
okay.
chipping away on it.
Yep. Okay. Well, think of it differently than chipping away. But each thing, so I'm beginning to get the impression, each thing that feels still not working to you, that need you to go back in your own imagination as conductor and also the ensemble imagination to imagining what that sound wants to be and letting it be. You have so much which is already in place. Let's put it this way, you have so much which is already in place. You have the piece of music. You are able to play. It is sounding through you. And I do not want you to start, quote unquote, chipping away and losing the quality that you already have. And it's very easy to say, well, we're going to make these details perfect. And in trying to do that, you begin to shake the energy of the whole. So I want you in your rehearsal to do, say, in a passage like this, what I've just begun to suggest, that you go immediately for exactly what's written on the page, and then your playing will begin to adjust itself. But continue to be making music as opposed to fixing things. Okay, does that make sense as a thought? I don't want you to go there. You don't have to say that. But let you understand that there are only a handful, maybe, of high school bands that can approach this music. Very few conductors who would actually ever say, I'm going to try to do this with my high school band. So, I mean, you're in a very small group of people that will make the effort, and then that small group which is able actually to bring this to pass. So, what you guys have here in your conductor is a model of somebody who sees something that he recognizes as good, something he recognizes that he wants to bring to his students, and then he goes aggressively and tries to do that. So just understand that that's a rare model, and a very beautiful thing. Okay, so as you go forward, I'm kind of urging you toward this aggressiveness in this piece. The attitude of the music, and I think, J. David, that when you speak in 113 of trying to smooth this out, what you are responding to is the fact that the music takes on a different breath at this point altogether. It does take a much bigger breath. You have longer stretches devoted to these single qualities. You have long melodic lines which are starting to flow here, as opposed to the rather short and aggressive changes that were taking place previously. A bigger breath begins to happen here. And so, yes, but there is also, at the same time, this aggressive, urgent quality which is in the music at 117, with these long melodic lines which start. It is aggressive and urgent. And that doesn't let go until it lets go. And then it lets go just rather suddenly into the saxophone solo of 36. Okay. Here the whole quality of the music begins to take on this other worldly kind of character. And it really is quite a powerful thing. Yeah. Okay, so those are thoughts for that spot. So this, your work with the rest of it at 160 and on was excellent. The transition into measure 202, 203, 204, 205, excellent. And then the new tempo at 210, where it says in tempo, you've done well there. That tempo is the previous tempo, which is quartering the 120. Almost invariably, conductors at this point want to take this much slower. It looks like it ought to be just kind of a slow and dreamy kind of thing. Are we back?
Sorry, yeah, we lost you
There
there.
we go. Okay. Something happened. All right.
You had just started
So
talking about the tempo
at 214. In this passage, I would suggest that you start the tempo with your players, and just to remind you to that it is piano dynamic all the way through. That you start this and you let them play without conductor. And that they do the slowing at measure 218 on their own. And I think with a couple of tries at this, you'll see that they take full ownership of it, and that it turns out a lot better. So you could just let that happen. You conduct again at 219. At 225, the same thing, let them do it. Same thing at 232, let them do it. Okay. And then we come into the ending of the piece 240. This is, for me, an extraordinarily beautiful thing. You know, one of the things I like best about it, that I don't know if your players have actually looked at the score and such, but you might show them these couple of pages of score, 52 and 53. The thing I love about these pages is that it's almost nothing on the page. It just looks blank. You got a little thing in the piano, you got a little bit of a piece of this or that here and there. The musical flow at 240 is just extraordinary. It's beautiful, right? And it's just, it's one of those really nice moments. And this takes me way back to when I first started looking at scores myself. I was a college freshman, I recall, and went to the music library at Oberlin because I had heard the Debussy piece, La Mer, and loved it. And I went and looked for the score. And I remember looking at that score and seeing the first pages, and there's, again, almost nothing on the page, and a couple of treble notations for strings, a couple of harp sounds, and that's it. The page looks like there's nothing there, and yet the music itself was extraordinary. And that was one of these things that has always inspired me, to be able to write a page of music that looks like nothing, and yet is powerful. So it's just one of those little parallels. Okay, when we get to the flute and the saxophone solos, I think you guys were great. And there's the only thing I can say to you is that be brave as you go through this. It is a tightrope walk. And if you look down, you fall. If you start worrying about intonation, then you'll start worrying about intonation. So I'm going to ask you to progress with perfect confidence and just simply assume that everything is going to go well. It is hard, no question. And the final oboe solo, exceptionally well played. And out to the end of the piece. So, okay, so those are the issues. And are there any other questions that came up as I was talking?
There is one really specific thing which is probably stupid, but at 161, I just love that the low voices who have the little grace notes in speed 3, and we don't have contra bassoon obviously because we don't have $20,000, but I don't know how to make that happen. I don't know how to make that happen other than synthesize piano and turn the volume up real loud.
Okay, so what have you got? You have bass clarinet?
Yeah, we got bass, clarinet, contralto, bassoon, 3 bassoons, and piano there. I play that note.
Okay, no contra. Okay. All right. Do you have double bass, though?
Yes, we do.
Okay. That ought to make a sound. It seemed to me like it did, you know?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Who are you guys? Make a sound. Yeah. So it's so interesting about the nature of sound, the quality of sound. If you have one player, that one player can make a powerful sound. If you have 10 players, those 10 players can make a powerful sound. If you have an entire band, that can make a powerful sound. So it's all relative. And you can make, just with the people sitting there, you don't have to boost anything, but ask them to actually do that. To put their full aggressive intent into a sound. Now, the really interesting thing about sound making is that there is a maximum volume, a maximum physical volume that certain instruments can make. There's no getting around it. But the intent to make something powerful is different than the maximum physical volume. You know, a very small person, really angry with you and shouting at you could be as scary as someone who is a whole lot bigger. You understand that?
Yes, we do.
Right. Yeah. Okay. But just take that as an idea. If you have the intention to produce fortissimo with accent at measure 1161, if you truly have intention, it will happen. And if you can ask for that full intention at that moment, then it will happen. And it will be surprising. Okay?
Did anyone else have a question about anything? We got a question in the back. Speak loudly, Daniel.
How long did it take you to write this piece?
Well, that's a good question. Let me see. I'm just looking at the end of the score. I always mark the dates. This was finished September the 8th of 2003. I'm going to say it's probably a summertime project. Like a couple of months to something of that sort. Okay. I'm sorry. This one again.
There's a bird trying to
There's a window above the projector where they're looking at you, and I guess the seagull just slammed into it.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry.
Well, with creative work is really different than the passage of hours or calendar time, and so it seems like it takes a relatively brief time to compose again. But internally, it feels like a long, involved passage of time. But no, in terms of calendar time, a couple of months probably making this piece.
John, would you?
So,
Yeah, what is the significance of the title?
okay, tell me the question again.
He said, what is the significance of the title?
The title, okay. The traveler is the person moving from life to life to life to life. There's a wonderful little phrase in Buddhist practice about the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara. So a Bodhisattva is a great soul, a person who has transcended and transformed much over the course of many lifetimes. The Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, serenely riding the waves of birth and death. This is really kind of a wonderful thought. Serenely riding the waves of birth and death. And just contemplate that for a while. So, this is the traveler. And there is no end, there is no time as such. Having to live within what looks like time, but it doesn't really exist. So that's it. This is the traveler. So you guys are your own travelers. Doing your own things.
Other questions? I saw other hands. Who else had a question? No? No one? Okay. Did you want us to play it all? I know it's not really useful it's not easy to hear very
No,
well.
in fact, it's quite painful over Skype. I don't know if any of you have had the experience, but our voices can be transmitted fairly easily. But as soon as you add the full range of musical vibrations, it turns into an incredible mash of noise. And unhappy to listen to. My son, Matthew, is trying to hunt down the communication system that will accommodate music, and if he's successful, then we will have a different way of going about this. But it's going to be happier for me if we don't do the music at this particular
Absolutely. What? Maybe just one closing thought. One of the things I've learned a lot about from you is when you speak about this idea of the music coming through you, and you're a channel for it. You're kind of like the conduit through which it passes. And I don't know, if maybe just talk about that a little bit to finish off our session here.
Okay. This is again a not so easy thought, but now that you've had the experience of it, then you recognize that it does happen. And I think probably in your performance you can say that you had that experience. Is that the case, Jay? Is that what it feels like?
To me, yeah, I think. Do you guys feel that? What did you feel that way in the performance?
Okay, so there's a clear sense that something of the sort has happened. And you feel pulled by the music, and the whole ensemble is playing as a unit. Now, just to reflect on your experience with that. When you are in that particular place, your minds are immediately awake and open and working at full high capacity, but you are not thinking as such. You are simply being. And in that place, the music moves through you in its own way. So how you arrive at that particular point is the question. And the answer to that question is your immediate attention to the full value of every musical sound. There's not some special way to get into this mental space. It is entirely about your capacity to be in full attention to the moment of the music making. And when that happens, the music moves fully on its own. In composing, the same thing happens. When I started out by saying that I cannot have a plan for a piece of music, I have to simply be open to let the music tell me what it wants to do. And so in an open way, I have to be fully in attention to the open space. You might try that for yourselves. Find an open place for yourself. Take a walk. This doesn't have to be a big deal. It can be 5 or 10 minutes. And see if you can let go of your thinking. You'll recognize that your mind is full of thoughts of one kind or another. See if you can identify your thoughts and let them go to the point where you are awake and aware, but you're not thinking about a whole lot. And then rest in that place. And as you rest in that place, simply look at the world around you. And let it come through you in its own way. I think you're going to have a very different experience than you normally have taking a walk. This is a starting point for any kind of creative work. So this is a lot to give you and a lot to say all at once, and so I think it's probably enough to do right now.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to talked to us and for writing this piece. It's meant a lot to us, and just thank you.
Yeah, well, it's a great pleasure to work with you guys. And so, wish you all. I want to hear your recording when you finish it. Okay.
Okay.